What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Thanks for pressing play. Today we're going to get a little more serious about the mods on the new Colorado ZR2, and stay tuned because these are mods you all can use. All right, guys, so just like in the previous video I showed you, I did manage to get my hands on a Colorado ZR2. This thing's awesome. I've absolutely loved it so far, but there's a couple little things that need fixing, if you ask me, and one of the big ones is right here. Every Colorado, it doesn't matter what trim you get, will not have any kind of HIDs or LEDs in the headlights. So these are just standard halogen bulbs, and yeah, the light output on these things is really bad at night. So we're gonna fix that today. We're also gonna fix a couple other lights on the truck to make them as up-to-date as possible looking, to kind of fit the overall look of the actual truck, because this thing is really freaking cool looking, but it kind of shows its age with some of these weird omissions. So we don't have LED or HID headlights here. We don't have any LEDs here, no LEDs in the interior. It's all just standard halogen bulbs and they look dated. But thankfully, that's really easy to fix. So we're gonna jump into this right now. I'm gonna show you guys how you can take your Colorado, regardless of what trim you have, and make it much more current looking. I'm gonna try something a little different this time. Lasfit was nice enough to send me LED headlights for the low beams and the high beams, as well as a slew of other LEDs we're gonna be putting on the interior of the Colorado, like I said, to bring it up to date. But these are going to be the big stars of the show right here. So these particular bulbs from Lasfit are a 6000 Kelvin color, meaning they're going to be more of a bright white slash tinge of blue. So instead of the stock yellow halogen bulbs, we're going to have a more modern LED look, and they're going to be brighter at night. But before we get into the headlights, we're going to go ahead and install some LEDs on the interior to do basically the same kind of thing. We want to make sure the Colorado is as up-to-date as possible, so its function is as great as it looks. I absolutely love this freaking truck so far, guys. So let's get these LEDs installed and bring it up to 2021 standards. We are now in the ZR2, and we can immediately see, yeah, there we have another problem with an incandescent bulb. Again, it takes the Colorado ZR2 and it knocks it down a notch. It kind of makes it feel dated. Now, obviously, they are all the same. So if we turn all those on, that's what we get. At night, especially, this looks really dated. It's just not a good look, and it's not very bright. So we have a fix for this, though. Like I said, we're gonna install LEDs here, and all of the LEDs we're gonna be working with today for the headlights, the interior lights, and even the license plate bulbs will be listed in the description down below. If you guys are interested in updating your Colorado, this is a really good place to start. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and turn these off, because we want these things to be kind of cooled down for when we're pulling them out of there. And we're going to start disassembling this and get these new LEDs in. So first things first, we got to get this cover off so we can actually access the bulbs that are in here. There's 3 bulbs in the front and there is 2 in the rear. For this part, we're going to take a trim pry tool and we're just going to kind of shove it up in here and start prying down. Now, I've done this a couple times in my previous Colorado, and there's really no fear of breaking anything as long as you're not going crazy with this. This thing's actually pretty strong, and as you can see there, I already popped one of the clips out, so we can just keep doing the same thing until all of them pop out. And almost, there we go. One more. With one hand only, I managed to get them all off without breaking them, so you should be good to go. Just don't go real crazy with any kind of muscle, and you'll get that right out, no problem. There's our 3 bulbs. So we got one there, and one here. We're just gonna grab them, pull them out, and replace them with the LEDs. This is what we're working with today. On the left is the stock incandescent bulb, and on the right is the new LED. And it's extremely easy to install. So we just take it just like this, and we can literally just push it right up into the same spot that the bulb was in, just like that, and we are good to go. So now we'll test it out. So there's an incandescent, there's our LED. It just looks much more modern. So we're gonna do that same thing 4 more times and get the entire interior moved over to LED. We're gonna go ahead and put the cover back on, which is as easy as just basically popping it back into place. And just like that, guys, we are now more up to date. Check that out. Look at how much brighter, how much more current that looks. And at night, it is going to offer a lot more light output as well. It's going to be a lot more functional. So let's move to the back. It's going to be the exact same setup here, so I'm not going to bore you with the details, but I will, however, show you the aftermath. The next bit of interior that's going to get done is going to be the visors. So if we open up the mirror visor here, you can kind of see, yep, incandescence again. So no LED, you can't really see that one because of the sun, but no LED lights in here, and luckily we have another fix. These are really easy to replace as well. We can just pop these covers off, get into the bulb itself, and swap it out with an LED. So let's get to it. So just like that, we can kind of just pop these off. It's just 4 clips holding it in, and that's what we're left with. When you pop these out, you want to be careful because the center is glass. So again, just use the trim pry tool. You can just kind of start popping it out from the bottom. There it is. Now again, here is what we're working with. On the left is a stock bulb, and on the right is the new LED. But what I'm going to do is I actually leave it turned. So as you can see, instead of it being in there flat like that, I actually have it turned towards the mirror, and I'll do that on both sides. Both sides will be turned towards the mirror. So it's only putting out about half of the normal light output towards the person's face. And there's a reason for that. Like I said, these are extremely bright. We don't want to go too bright with this, but I do want that more modern LED color, and I do want a little more brightness out of it. So then after that, we're just gonna pop the cover back on like so, and we are good to go. So that's what we get. It's much more modern looking, and it will perfectly match that LED there. All right, so believe it or not, the truck is in frame here, and I know it's really dark, but what I wanted to show you guys is what the interior lights look like at night. As soon as I hit the unlock button here, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Yeah, look at that.
The next day.
It is LED time, guys. So we are going to go ahead and pull out the stock halogens and replace it with the Lasfit LED. It does have a fan, and I have kind of monitored a little bit, like nothing scientific, but I've kept an eye on the actual temperature of this, and it doesn't seem to get overly hot. This will fit behind the factory dust cap, and it doesn't melt anything. Nothing gets too hot and shuts off or anything like that. So this is a really good alternative for the factory halogens. This is an all aluminum construction, so there's no plastic on this minus the actual fitment collar here. This is all aluminum, so it's a pretty solid built bulb. I actually have the high beams and the low beams, but this one in my hand right now is the low beam. This is the most important one. So here we are under the hood. Don't judge me by how dirty this is. This hasn't had a chance to make it up to blackout tinting yet. They're going to take care of all this stuff. Stay tuned for those videos. I'm doing something pretty cool with the truck. You're definitely going to want to see that, especially if you own something like this that you want to keep in nice shape while doing any kind of off-roading. Yeah, stay tuned. But anyway, we're going to head over here to the driver's side headlight first, and you can kind of reach in the back here and twist off the dust caps. So right back in here, that's the dust cap right there. So I'm going to reach in, quarter turn, pull it off. There it is. So that's what your dust cap will look like. There is a little rubber seal on there. You'll want to make sure it gets back on there so no moisture ends up in your brand new headlight. But now we can go ahead, quarter turn out the factory light as well, which is right there. So reach in, quarter turn, pull it out, and then we'll just disconnect it from the power source, which is right below it. Now with the power plug free of the stock bulb, we can go ahead and grab the LED, and it will go into the same position. So it will just pop right in there, just like that. Now I am going to go ahead and test them just to make sure that they work, because this sometimes needs to be flipped in order for the power to actually come through the LED.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
And it's not working, so that's why we test things before putting it all back together. Now we got to flip the power source to make it work. And she's working. And just like that, you can see we are installed, and the power cable coming out of the bottom is coming directly out of the bottom straight down. So these are adjustable so you can turn them around in the actual housing, but ideally you want that cable straight down. That way the blade of the LED is straight up and down inside your actual headlight assembly, and that puts the LED chips at 9 and 3 o'clock. That gives you the best light output in projection housings. And we're going to have to go ahead and push all the power wiring for this into the headlight assembly as well. So this fits right in pretty easily, not really a big deal. So that should do it. We'll go ahead and get the dust cap back on. Like that. High beam dust cap, quarter turn off. Same with the bulb itself. Quarter turn, pull it out, and then we'll disconnect the power here. We're going to go ahead and install this the same way we did the low beam. Just kind of come down in here, find the factory positioning, and then just quarter turn it in. Again, you're going to want to make sure that that power wire is coming directly out of the bottom, thus making the front flat part of the LED straight up and down. And with the high beam, we can actually see it by looking in there at the headlight. You can actually tell it is straight up and down in there, putting the LEDs at 3 and 9 o'clock in there to give you the best possible light output. But just like with the low beam side, we will tuck all the wires back inside the headlight, and then we'll go ahead and put the dust cap back on, making sure everything's sealed up nice and tight so no moisture gets in there. But this is done. But ultimately, that's the installation. They fit in the factory headlights. There's no cutting involved, nothing too terrible, and you're going to get better light output and a much more updated look. So here are the stock headlights on my Colorado ZR2. Every Colorado out there has the same stock halogen bulbs, and the top of the line ZR2 or even the ZR2 Bison is no exception. We still get just the normal halogen light bulbs, nothing fancy here, and the camera is doing a really good job at hiding how dim these really are because it kind of adjusts to the surrounding light. It makes that look pretty bright, but in person they are much dimmer than that, and they are almost not safe for the road, I would say, because they really do not illuminate much of the road. You're really left kind of blind with this truck from stock. So it is the next night. I installed just the driver's side high beam and low beam. I don't know how well that's coming through on camera, but the low beam is definitely brighter. It is definitely a more crisp white with a tint of blue in there. It definitely looks, again, more 2021 than the light on the right. So outside the truck now, you can again clearly tell which one of these is stock and which one of them is the upgraded LEDs. Very, very different in person though. The camera is going to kind of dull it down a little bit. This one over here is significantly brighter, as well as a much more crisp white tint to it that gives it that more updated look. Now we are about 10 to 12 feet away from my garage door, and you can see the light that it's putting out on the garage door as well. And it really has a real nice crisp cutoff up here. So does the stock one for the most part, but it bleeds past there a little bit more than the LED having that crisp cutoff. So here we are on the next day. We're going to go ahead and get the low beam and high beam installed on the passenger side as well. Now I told you the passenger side is a little bit different because there's a couple little extra pieces we have to remove. I'm assuming these are somehow dust guards to prevent any kind of craziness from getting into your engine when you're doing any kind of off-roading. But ultimately what we have to do is right in here, there is a T20 Torx screw. Once you remove that, you're also going to pop out the trim clip right here. We'll basically disconnect it from the bottom of the little piece we're trying to remove by the headlight, and then you can actually just pull the entire piece out. With that out of the way, now we can kind of start getting into the back part here. Now for the rubber plastic piece here on the passenger side, we don't have to completely remove it. We just have to be able to get it out of the way enough to access the headlight bulb. So the first step would be to remove this radiator line here, and it's just held on with a clip that goes into the plastic rubber area. So with a trim tool, you could just kind of pry up on it a little bit, and just like that, you should be able to pop it right out of place. So with it out of the way, we can go ahead and focus on the one clip on here that is right below this wire harness. Try to get you a shot of this thing here, right there. So once we remove that, we can then peel this back far enough that we can start accessing the bulbs on the headlight. With that clip out, we can now pry this back enough to access the dust covers, which you can see right there, and the low beam in the back. So from here, the process is exactly the same as the driver's side. So I'm not going to bore you with the details. There was just a little bit extra we had to do to gain access to the passenger side bulbs to swap them out for the LEDs. So that should do it for you guys. If you wanted to do any kind of upgrading of your own, this is it. It's not hard, it's not even expensive, and it will definitely take your Colorado to the next level, so to speak. All right guys, and some bonus footage. So I know I mentioned earlier in the video we were going to also do the license plate lights, and time kind of got in the way and I wasn't going to include this, but I figured what the heck. So right here is the license plate bulb. We are obviously under the truck. You can see it right there, and all we got to do is quarter turn that. Just grab it, quarter turn, pop it out. Oh yeah, look at that ugly incandescent bulb. We can replace this with an LED as well, so it will match the headlights and the interior lights and again bring the 2021 up to 2021 standards. Now, just for future proofing, before we put the bulb in there, I am going to go ahead and squeeze some dielectric grease in there to kind of help keep water out. Just in case water ever makes its way in here, it won't affect the light output of the LED because it will kind of push water out. It won't allow water to get in and corrode anything. Of course, I'll link all this stuff in the description down below as well. And there it is installed with some dielectric grease behind it. As you can see right in there, or maybe not see, the connection is all greased up, so no water will be able to get in there, and that is a great thing. So we're going to go ahead and just put this thing back into its original position, just like that. And you can actually hear it lock into place. This side is good. Now we're going to do the other side to obviously match on the license plate bulbs, and then we are good to go. Obviously, I'm not going to bore you with the details, guys. It is the exact same thing on the other side, but now we have a 2021 Colorado that has matching 2021 style lighting. Fantastic stuff. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I hope that kind of helped you learn something about the LED light output on the Colorado and how easy it is to kind of update something. So, like I said a couple times in this video, I'm absolutely loving the ZR2, but these little touches and these little updates really help bring the truck up to what I would call current day standards. But yeah, guys, stay tuned for all the content to come. The ZR2 is going to be getting a lot of love. I'm blown away by the freaking truck, and it's going to be a blast to mod. So stay tuned for those. Those videos are coming soon. But as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one.